Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Chief Master Instructor Kenny Smith, Level 4 Training Group again. What I'm going to cover in this installment, and I'm going to use a couple different blades for this, depending on comfort level. We're going to talk about the offensive knife tactics of the criminal element. When I was younger, I used to be the criminal element. I'm not even, it's not something I'm proud of, but it's the truth. I learned a lot from it, things that I can now pass on to hopefully keep someone from being victimized by. I wasn't the type of guy that would outwardly target anybody, but I was not the type of guy that you wanted to be around either. Facts of life, but made me who I am, so can't complain anymore. That being said, the knife, and I'm using a big knife here for demonstration purposes, the knife is definitely something to be respected. I'm not even going to say the name of it, but at one point there was a very highly respected shooting school who's basically taught the 21-foot rule for knife defense. As in take 2 steps back to count the distance to draw a gun. That's all well and good, but I'm going to tell you, and this is speaking as a former criminal, if I mean to run this knife through you, you're not going to see it until right before I decide to. That's just the way it is. Okay, this knife dueling stuff, pull a knife out here, that's Hollywood. All right, that's Hollywood or someone that doesn't really mean to use it. Alright, knives are insanely brutal, they conceal very easily. Alright, we've all seen this. Okay, behind the forearm. Okay, we've all seen this. Police officers are familiar with behind the leg. Why? Because they use it with their own weapons. Okay, what a lot of people aren't familiar with is taking a steak knife, or any knife for that matter, and I'm being careful because I just sharpened this knife and don't really want to cut my rigger's belt. And tucking it down in a belt. You know, a lot of people aren't familiar with that. Or, again, I'm being very careful because this is a nice shirt. I don't want to cut the sleeve. Tucking it up actually in the sleeve. Okay? So, the whole notion of you're going to see the knife at 21 feet is asinine. That is plainly asinine. If you want to use a gun against a knife, you better damn well know how to fight off a knife without using your gun. Alright? Because odds are you're not going to see the knife until here. Okay? Just bang! You know, there are guys that get knifed all of a sudden, never knew it was there. They said it felt like they got punched in the belly. And then they reach down and blood. Okay? So, that's another reason you should have medical gear. Alright? But a few of the things that I saw are, and you know, now that I'm not on the criminal side, I honestly will tell you, I get on YouTube and I watch videos of people getting in knife fights. I watch people getting gunfights on YouTube. I watch fist fights. Why? Because there's surveillance footage that's there. All right, and if you don't see what's happening, if you don't study what the criminals do, if you don't study your enemy, you'll never beat them, ever, 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 ever. Okay, you just won't. I mean, that is a fact of life. Until you know your enemy, you're not going to beat them. You're just not. Okay? When police officers stop somebody, what do? They run your background. They're gathering intel on you. Okay? If you have a history of drug offenses, they're going to want to take a look around. If you got a history of carrying a concealed weapon without permit, they might be a little bit more antsy to think you might have a weapon on you. You know, if you have a concealed carry permit, whether you told them about them or not, some states don't require you to. This one does. But I know some states don't. They see that you have a permit when they run your stuff, they might start, you know, wanting to look around for that gun. You know, they're gathering intel. That's what it is. Okay? And obviously, if you're a habitual speeder, they're probably not just going to let you off with a warning. All right? Even though that's obviously in the spectrum, that's still intel. Okay? If they look up your record and they see, you know, you've been gang affiliated, you've been to prison, you're going to get treated a little differently, and rightfully so. Would you not treat somebody differently that was known to be dangerous? Exactly. All right. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about some of these tales from the other side here. All right. And I highly, highly, highly recommend, especially if you're an instructor, study the enemy. Study the enemy. All right. Talk to your local police. Yeah. As a matter of fact, most police departments would be more than happy if you're a hand-to-hand combat instructor to work with you and do self-defense classes for the community. Most of them have no problem with that. Okay. So keep that in mind as well. You know, if you understand what's going on, all right, that's a good fit for you there. If you keep training for yesterday's battle, you'll never win tomorrow's war. All right? So what we're going to look at on this is there are two really common things that a lot of people, especially martial artists, don't train for. All right? The first one is how knives move. This, and I'm going slow even if you train it fast, those big motions don't happen with knives, even amongst untrained people. It's quick. Short motion, short motion. All right? Maybe an untrained person might reach out here, but no one goes full swing. All right? That's done in training and in basic teaching so that people see what the hell is going on. I understand that. I got a news flash for you. You're training to fail. You're training. If you train a backhanded knife strike with this much motion, you are training to fail. I understand you need them to see what's coming for the purpose of teaching. I understand that fully. I got one for you. Go slow. It's more realistic. Okay? It's more realistic. No. I'm moving very slow, but it's more like what you'll see. Another thing, when knives come across, typically they go right back. We can use that. I'm a big believer, if I cut one, I stab two. Okay? Nothing wrong with that at all. Now, I would not be thrusting with this knife. Why? It's a single-edged blade and it's got a funky shape to it. If I was going to thrust, I'd use something like this. This is a Marine K-bar. Very, very old Marine K-bar, actually. Basically, it's got a little bit of a clip edge up top, so that when I thrust in, when I get this blade a little push down here, I'm getting a little bit of pressure relief back here. Because the human body is a vacuum. If I bury this blade all the way into something that's pressurized, that pressure is going to keep me from getting it back. So if I can get a little bit of cut going on either side, then that helps me get it back, without going into too much detail here. All right. Now, we see this strike less, and this strike a lot in those surveillance camera videos. Not necessarily in that order. And of course, side to side. And that can be up here, it can be down here. All right, that's about what you see. All right, should you train for this, and this, and this? Yes, of course you should. I mean, anybody that says you shouldn't train for those is an idiot. But what should you concentrate on training? What you're most likely to see. Okay? That's like me teaching an empty hand self-defense class and say, okay, will you defend a Taekwondo jump spinning back kick bite? I have never once even heard of somebody effectively using a jump spinning back kick to save their ass. Has someone done it? Probably. But I don't know anybody that has. You know, if you have, chime in. I'd love to talk to you about it because that's freaking awesome. But basically, realistic training here, you know, if I know I'm most likely, if forehand is easier than backhand, forehand is more common. Thrust is pretty common too, and we're going to cover a little bit more on thrust in a second. I should train, let's say, 40, 30, 30. Some form of thrust, all right, and a backhand, 30 and 30, 40. All right, so say I train 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Think about it like that. All right. Now that's not exact percentages. That's just throwing some random numbers out there. I will say that watching those surveillance videos, you see a lot of this, some of this, and a lot of this. Okay. Bang, bang, bang. In prisons and jail settings, most knife attacks are point-based. Why? Because it's very, very hard to make a shank that's sharp. Because when you're making weapons out of toothbrushes and shit like that, it's very easy to make a point, not so easy to make a cutting edge. And I'm actually going to use a smaller blade here, my old Smith & Wesson HRT. This is a bad little knife. I love this little thing. The reason I'm using this is because the scabbard still looks like a blade, and I can stick my heavy bag without worrying about punching a hole in it. All right. Most commonly, the weapon is concealed, some form or another. The individual is just grabbed and sewing machined. Why is it called a sewing machine? My arm moves like a sewing machine. And what they're doing is they're stabbing repeatedly into the soft underbelly here. Alright, now, it was like a rocket scientist to figure out, alright, if I angle this blade and go under the sternum with that, I'm going to hit stuff that really doesn't respond well to lack of pressure. Alright, how would we defend that? That is entirely up to you. We have our methods to defend it. Martial arts schools should have a method to defend that. If the only way you train to defend against the thrust is here, you're failing yourself. Okay? So expand your counter knife training. Expand your counter knife training. And if you're one of those guys or gals that say, I don't need to use my hands because I have a gun, some good knife guy will cut you to shreds. Some good knife gal will cut you to shreds. I would dare you to go in a force-on-force environment with a training knife and an airsoft gun versus Julius Milagredo or Mike Janik or Mark Denny or Tom Sotis or any of these very high-end knife guys. All right? I'll be honest with you. I would be willing to go up for it. Not for trying to use a gun against one of them, but for most people, most concealed carry practitioners trying to use a force-on-force training gun against me with a training knife. Why? Because I train with a knife. And don't think for a red second that criminals don't train with knives. Right? Don't think that for a second. I'll tell you, in my rougher years, which ended a few years ago, fortunately, I quit doing some of the really stupid stuff I was doing, but I actually started completely obeying the law after I got to spend the night in jail. One of the very first lessons I was taught was as soon as they give you a toothbrush, lose it. Why? You grind the point of it and you make yourself a shiv. I wasn't in there long enough to have to worry about that or anything, but that when someone is in a county jail, and it's not even a really rough county jail, I'm not going to mention which one, but I didn't see anybody with one, but one of the very first things I got told was how to make a damn shiv. Okay? So don't think for a red second that criminals don't train this stuff. If you think that, you're failing yourself. You're failing yourself. As a matter of fact, there are a great many MMA gyms, okay, and I know this from talking to several martial arts instructors, because I am a martial arts instructor. There are many of them that say, hey, what, I have to kick guys out because they come in here and they'll find out they're taking this, they're actually training, and then they're going and starting shit. Okay? Fortunately, the instructors that I know that have had that problem gave them the boot, immediately. But it still happens. It still happens. All right? And, you get these guys that they don't really actively train, but they train with each other. They'll go fist fight for fun, with each other. It happens. They do train. I mean, don't think for a second that they're stupid. To do so is naive and, in fact, foolish on our own part. All right? Always assume that your criminal is better trained, or the criminal that's attacking you is better trained, better prepared, better armed, and not alone. Not alone. That's the last thing I'm going to leave you with on that. +1 rule. One guy has a knife, somebody else has a knife. One guy's got a gun, somebody else has a gun. Always looking around for another threat, especially if a weapon's already involved. Okay? Why should you take knives seriously? There's a lot of them out there. Alright? This is directed at police officers here. Folding knife. Very, 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 very few places in this country is it illegal to take a small folding knife. Something with a blade that size. One of the small folding box cutters. Not this one. I don't own one of those, but better yet. This knife right here is now illegal on an airplane. A little small pocket knife. Okay? Now, you mean to tell me that little blade won't mess your day up? Whack! Across the belly? Yeah, you're still untested. Now, police officers, how many of you live in a jurisdiction where a small pocket knife is illegal? Very, very, very few. How many police officers live in a place where this will get you jail time if you don't have a permit? Okay? Here in my state, this will get you jail time if you don't have a permit when it's concealed. Unless you take it to a courthouse or a jail or something, this is perfectly fine just about anywhere, except schools and shit like that. So keep that in mind. There's less ramifications for carrying a knife if they get caught. Less chances of going to jail, more chances they'll carry it. When I was bouncing, I wish I had a buck for every one of these I found coming in the club that came in there. When I'm hanging out at one of the local bars around here that's owned by the family of a friend of mine, you know how many of these I see coming in there? You know how many times I see there's this one particular guy comes in, he gets a very, very cheap boot knife on the small of his back. If it was a more expensive knife, I'd be half inclined to just walk up and lift it. But it's not worth my time, not worth my trouble. But, you know, you see folding knives. You see knives. Knives are common. How about this? This is a very expensive knife. I think I paid $175 for this knife. Benchmade. All right. My other one I carry is a Spyderco. I think I paid $75 for it. $545 Glock pistol with an $81 pair of sights. My sights cost more than my Spyderco. Okay. Something to think about. Less money to get, less ramifications for carrying. How about this? No background check required to get a knife. Now, before some liberals start saying ban knives or make a background check for knives, remember that next time you want to go get a steak knife. Okay? I'm not saying you should put restrictions on knives by any means. I mean, personally, I'm pro-constitutional carry. So, if it was up to me, gun control would be hitting the target and using both hands. But it's a good thing I'm not a politician, I guess some would say. But there's very, very little ramifications for carrying a knife. They're very, very cheap. You're very likely to find them. I can carry a knife, open it covertly. Matter of fact, with this particular Spyderco, if I lay my middle finger right in the notch when I open it, it's nearly silent. Okay? My Benchmade here, I can open silently. I lay the blade against my leg, okay, to get friction, hold the lock back. It's slow, but it's silent. No click. All right? Can I do it a little quicker? Yeah. Right there. It's silent. Hit the lock. Roll it forward. Let it go. Totally silent. All right? If I want to use this one. You hear anything? Okay. How about this? I'm going to go off to the side of my heavy bag. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. Back of my blade. You hear anything? Only thing you're going to hear when a knife is used on somebody is the sound of a scream. They're silent. No gunshots. They are very, very common for those three reasons. To learn how to defend a knife, learn how to defend one well. Okay? Every encounter with a knife is lethal. Alright? That doesn't necessarily mean that just because somebody comes out with a knife on you that somebody has to die. No. That means every time a knife comes out on you, somebody wants you dead. Okay? Why? It's a deadly weapon. No different than a gun. If you have more respect for a gun than you have for a knife, especially when it's leveled at you, you're wrong. I'll be honest with you. If I'm my heavy bag, I would not be too upset right here. Okay? Yeah, I've got to act fast, and it'd be kind of hard to get that weapon. Not really, but I'd much rather that than this. Okay? Why? Because that gun, some of my fingers here are the muzzle of a firearm. Camera's not in any danger. Camera's not in any danger. Camera's not in any danger. Okay. Camera's in danger. Camera's in danger. Everywhere this arm moves, if I'm in range, that camera's in danger. Alright? If someone's going to attack you with a gun, there's two things that keep you from being hit. Luck and Kevlar. Okay? Someone wants to attack you with a knife, they can do it very easily. Alright? But they have to be close. Okay? So, if you have a knife you get really lucky and you get a knife at the mythical 21 feet, you best know how to explode off the X. Now, I don't mean take 2 steps back. I mean go to the side, go to an angle. Alright, and remember, they're dangerous in the full arc of their arm. Okay? So, keep that in mind. if you get a knife deployed here, you better be really good. Okay? You better be really good, and you better act fast, you better act now. If you want to get your gun in the fight, the only way to do that is use empty hand techniques until you get to a position where you've created enough time lag where you can deploy your gun. Alright? Learn how to respect the knife. Learn how to respect the knife. Okay? And carry your own knife. Carry your own knife. Alright? Stay frosty, stay in the fight.